Insane twist, billionaire's son crumbles after mom's death. Black maid helps him rebuild at 3 a.m. In the heart of Manhattan, where glistening skyscrapers scraped the sky, a tragedy unfolded that left everyone gasping. Billionaire Charles Hastings had it all: a gifted life, a perfect mother. But when she died in a car crash under mysterious circumstances, everything turned to ash. William, his only son, shattered like a glass figurine. The grief wrapped around him like a thick fog, choking him in the darkness of his penthouse suite. Friends whispered of drinks too many, parties that masked his pain, and the sudden silence of laughter echoing down the marble corridors. The night fell heavy, like a blanket draped over him. With the moonlight filtering in, illuminating the dust specks swirling in the midnight air, a strange sound broke the stillness: a soft knock at the door. It was Clara, the earthy black maid with eyes that sparkled like polished onyx. She moved like a shadow, seamlessly gliding into the air of despair. "You can't hide forever, Will," she said, her voice a gentle breeze amidst the chaos. "You need to face it." As he stared at her, that familiar lump in his throat grew. Who was Clara, really? She wasn't just a maid, she was the grounding presence in a world gone wild. Her no-nonsense approach made William question everything, even if she seemed like a silent guardian of secrets. His unease simmered. He wondered what she knew about his mother's untimely death. Eyes darting around the room, he felt the weight of her gaze. Did she see through the mask he wore? The clock ticked ominously, a reminder that time was slipping. William couldn't shake the sensation of being watched and whispered about. More whispers echoed in his mind: the family's darkest secrets, his mother's past, Clara's role. Were they tangled together? He needed answers. Maybe she held the key. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. William took a deep breath, anxiety clawing at his chest. What do you know, Clara? About my mother and how she really died? The question hung between them, thick and heavy like the darkness in a storm. Clara stood still, her heart racing, one hand gripping the doorknob as if to bolt. Would she reveal the truth? Or keep him trapped in the shadows of uncertainty? With a mysterious smile, she stepped closer, words coated in a whisper that felt like ice on his skin. You have no idea what's coming at 3 a.m., everything will change. Intrigued and terrified, William felt dread and excitement mingle. What secrets lay buried in the dark? Would he dare to uncover them? The clock ticked louder, urging him forward into a night that promised the unexpected. The dim light of the clock blinked ominously, as if mocking William's rising anxiety. 3 a.m., the witching hour. He felt the hairs on his arms stand up. What was supposed to happen? What did Clara know that could change everything? Clara glanced again to the door, her brows furrowing in contemplation. You need to trust me, Will. But first, you need to confront your demons. Your mother left some things behind, things that could change how you see everything. Her words dripped with urgency, and the air between them thrummed with unspoken truths. Like what? He pressed, desperate for clarity amid the rush of confusion. What could I possibly know that would make any of this better? She's gone. Your mother was involved in much more than you realize, dangerous things, she said, stepping even closer, her voice now barely above a whisper. She loved you fiercely, but her life wasn't just about you, Will. There are shadows, dark shadows. A cold wave washed over him. Shadows? What was she talking about? With every word, William felt himself being dragged further down a rabbit hole of suspicion. He couldn't help but think of the whispers, muffled conversations he'd eavesdropped on between his mother and her closest friends. All those hushed tones behind closed doors, they suddenly felt like a timestamp on lies buried deep. What do you mean? What kind of dangerous things? The tremor in his voice betrayed him. He needed to project strength, but fear gripped him tightly. Clara looked around the room as though the walls had ears. Then, she moved closer still, lowering her voice to a near silence. After she died, I found something, a box filled with letters. Letters addressed to someone named Jay, and not from you or your father. They spoke of secrets, misunderstandings, and the threats hanging over her life. His heart raced. Threats? From who? I don't know, Will, but that's part of what we have to figure out tonight. You can't keep living in denial, it's just you and me. Desperation clawed at him. The woman whose eyes reflected so much pain and wisdom offered him a lifeline, but could he trust her? Secrets handled poorly could break him, just like everything else. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the penthouse, reverberating through the marble halls. William's heart seized in his chest. Was someone else in the penthouse? Fear coursed through him, a sense of urgency igniting a primal instinct. What was that? I don't know, Clara said, her expression shifting, more alert now. He staggered back toward the door, peering into the darkened hallway. Shadows twisted along the walls like fingers reaching for him. We need to check it out. What if someone is here? Wait. You don't know who it could be. Clara hissed, panic threading into her usual calm demeanor. But William wasn't listening. There was a force pulling him forward, an innate drive to confront the unknown, to seek out the shadows that threatened to swallow their lives whole. He threw open the door, and the sudden silence was suffocating. The hallway loomed ahead, dark and foreboding. Ahead, a faint light flickered, and with it, William felt a surge of determination. What lay beyond could be the answers he was desperate for, or it could seal his fate. Taking a step into the unknown, his heart pounded like a war drum. Clara. He called back, the urgency of the moment clawing at him. Stay close. And as if summoned by his words, another crash, more forceful this time, echoed down the hall, sending a shiver of dread racing up his spine. Whatever was waiting in the dark, he was ready to face it. But what sort of revelations awaited him? Would the truth unveil a legacy of hidden dangers? With every step, the weight of the past loomed larger, the thin line between his grief and lurking threats beginning to blur. The flickering light ahead drew William like a moth to a flame. He hesitated for just a moment, the fear pulsing through him. No matter how much he wanted to turn back and hide, the growing mystery was a siren call he couldn't resist. Wait. Clara's voice broke through the haze. He turned to find her standing at the threshold, her hands trembling slightly. What if it's dangerous? Then we confront it together, he shot back, his resolve hardening. He stepped forward again, the floor cool beneath his bare feet. He rounded the corner, heart thumping harder with each heavy thud. The open space felt larger than life, the shadows clinging to the edges like a predator lurking, waiting for the right moment to strike. Another crash echoed, this time sounding more like something heavy hitting the floor. There, just a few feet away, was the door to his mother's south study, the very place he'd avoided since her passing. A thin stream of light seeped through the crack beneath the door, almost beckoning him closer. Will, are you sure about this? Clara whispered, the wariness creeping back into her voice. He glanced back at her, and the fear in her eyes mirrored his own. There's no other option. Clara nodded, and together they approached the door. The handle felt cold in his sweaty palm. He took a deep breath, summoned every ounce of courage he could muster, then twisted the knob and pushed the door open. The room was a graveyard of scattered papers, furniture upturned as if a storm had swept through. Several drawers lay pulled open, their contents strewn across the floor. The chaos screamed of urgency, of something important that had been sought out and not found. What happened here? Clara's voice was barely a whisper, but chaos shrieked in the silence. Someone was looking for something, he murmured, stepping inside. His gaze scanned the room, landing on the wreckage of a desk that his mother had once lovingly filled with mementos. An old typewriter sat off to the side, dust-covered and forgotten. But beneath it, something glimmered, an envelope peeking out. He moved toward it, every sound amplified in the stillness. He crouched down, feeling the chill race up his spine as he reached for the envelope. The initials on it resembled a jumbled version of J. His heart raced. Was this another letter? As he lifted it, a sharp sound pierced the air, a crashing noise from behind him followed by a scream. Clara! He turned. She stood frozen in the doorway, staring beyond him, eyes wider than he'd ever seen. Will! Behind you! A figure loomed in the shadows, emerging from the dark like a specter. Cold sweat dripped down William's back as the figure stepped forward, revealing a face that sent a chill coursing through his entire being. It was a man he never expected to see, a man his mother had told him stories about, tales woven with fear and respect. "You're not supposed to be here," the stranger rasped, his voice resonating with authority and danger. Panic surged through him. "What do you want?" But the man stepped closer, eyes narrowing. "Your mother left a legacy, William, and it's your turn to face it." Clara shook her head in disbelief. "No, we need to get out of here." "Not yet. Not until I reveal the truth," the man said, voice low and menacing. As they stood there, a heavy weight pressing against them, William felt time freeze. He grasped the envelope tightly, a lifeline suspended in the suffocating air, and realized, there was no turning back now. What haunting secrets lay in those letters? Could the figure before him be the key to everything? Before he could gather his thoughts, the man pointed ominously at the envelope in William's hand, and the true horror of the situation dawned upon him. William's heart raced, each beat echoing the dread that wrapped around him like a vice. The ominous figure before him waited, his expression a mixture of impatience and something darker. Clara remained paralyzed in the doorway, her breath shallow, her wide eyes fixed on the stranger like a deer caught in headlights. "What do you know about my mother?" William managed to stammer, his voice barely above a whisper. The envelope felt heavier in his grip, its contents pulsing with secrets he was terrified to uncover. The man's lips curled into a faint sardonic smile. "More than you can imagine, boy. She was a force, a guardian of truths buried deep in the shadows. And now you must decide how much of that legacy you wish to carry forward." "A legacy?" Clara interrupted, her voice trembling. "What are you talking about?" The man's gaze flitted between the two of them, the weight of his knowledge creating tension that filled the room like smoke. "Your mother was part of something big, something dangerous. The chaos in this room isn't just random, it's the aftermath of desperate people wanting what she hid." "Hidden? What did she hide?" William's defenses were rising, but the fear tethering him to the spot was potent. He could almost hear his mother's voice warning him about curiosity and danger, but in that moment, he felt an inexplicable longing to dive deeper, to uncover the truth. The man stepped closer, a sinister glint in his eye. "Why don't you take a look inside that envelope? Perhaps it will answer some of your questions." Gingerly, William opened the flap, revealing a stack of faded papers. A gasp caught in his throat when he glanced at the top sheet, where the words, "Project Locus," were scrawled in shaky handwriting. "What does this mean?" Clara asked, inching reluctantly into the room, her fear battling with a stark curiosity. William scanned the lines that followed, his heart racing as fragmented phrases jumped out at him, words like gene therapy, security breach, and secrets that could destroy lives. "My mother, she was involved in something medical," he breathed. "You have no idea how deep this goes," the man replied gravely. Project Locus was more than a research project, it was a web of lies and deceit that put everyone involved at risk. Your mother thought she could shield you, but now your name is caught in the crosshairs. A chill slithered down William's spine. He could see Clara's face paling with every detail spoken aloud. "But why come to us now?" she asked, her voice breaking slightly. "Because someone is watching, and they won't stop until they find what she left behind." William's hands shook, casting shadows against the paper as the man's words hung heavy in the air. "And if we don't get out of here now?" He quaked, dread pooling in his gut. "Then we'll find out how far this legacy will reach and who will pay the ultimate price for it." Tension crackled between them like static electricity, their worlds colliding in a desperate fight for answers. William's mind raced with fragmented thoughts of protecting Clara, understanding his mother's choices, and the lurking danger that seemed to snarl at their heels. As he stood on the precipice of a decision, the door creaked ominously, pulling his attention momentarily. But before he could process the sound, a loud crash resounded from somewhere deep within the house, making the walls tremble and the shadows dance. "Will! We have to leave!" Clara shouted, her voice snapping him back to reality, but as the urgency clawed at his insides, a chill seeped into his bones at the thought of what lay ahead. "Not until I know what this means," as another thud echoed. He clutched the envelope tighter, pulse racing at the revelation that lay beyond its pages. The room felt alive, pulsing with danger and urgency, and he realized, they weren't just uncovering secrets, they were being hunted. What awaited them in the shadows? And could they outrun the peril stalking them through the ages? The echo of the crash rattled the air, jolting William from his thoughts. Every muscle in his body screamed to flee, but his fingers gripped the envelope as if it were a lifeline. Clara's wide eyes darted around nervously, tracking any movement beyond the threshold. The man's expression morphed from sardonic to serious, his gaze honing in on the door as if he could sense whatever threat loomed beyond. "Listen to her," he snapped, his voice a low growl. "You need to trust that your instincts are guiding you. Right now, instincts mean survival." William hesitated. The words Project Locus echoed in his mind. The urgency consumed him, but so did a yearning for clarity. Would they ever find peace with the truth? Or were they already too late? "Be quick." Clara's panic rose, pulling at the edges of William's resolve. With the envelope clutched tightly, he darted a last look at the man. "What do we do about this?" The man leaned closer, narrowing the distance. "There are others who will try to take it from you. Others who don't care about the lives they destroy. Do not trust anyone outside this room, especially not those who appear to help." "Help?" William's voice cracked. "You just threw a bomb in our lives. How are we supposed to process any of this?" "They won't stop until they have what's theirs," the man said, stepping back to watch the door intently. "So you must be ready." Another crash echoed from nearby, and Clara nearly jumped out of her skin. "Time's up. We have to go." William wanted to argue, to demand answers, to peel back layers of intrigue that warped the reality he thought he knew. But as uncertainty filled the air, he couldn't ignore the urgency pulsing through his veins that he made a split-second decision. "We go now, but this isn't over," he whispered, clenching the envelope as if it alone could shield him from the turmoil brewing around them. Clara dashed toward the exit, and William followed closely, the weight of the envelope dragging behind him like an anchor. They spilled out into the dimly lit hallway just as a door swung wide, revealing a dark silhouette. William's heart plummeted, its rhythm thunderous in his ears. "Where do you think you're going?" A voice dripped with malice, chilling him to the bone. "Run!" Clara screamed, shoving past him. The terror in her voice propelled him into motion. They didn't have a moment to lose. William raced after her, any thoughts of the man or the envelope vanishing in the fog of adrenaline. They barreled down the hallway, feeling eyes on their backs, shadows creeping closer. As they reached the stairs, another crash reverberated from above. It was as if the house itself was warning them, but William pushed the fear down. He didn't have the luxury of time to process anymore. The only option was to escape the nightmare around them. They stumbled into the night, breathless and wide-eyed under the cloak of darkness. Clara looked at William, desperation lining her features. "What now?" "They'll come after us." William took a deep breath, panic clawing at his throat. "We figure out what this means. We understand what my mother was involved in. We can't stay here." The weight of the envelope pulsed in his pocket, the secrets inside threatening to unravel everything. "No," he breathed, "we need to know the truth before we run. What if a sound like a distant siren echoed through the night? We don't have time." Clara insisted, grabbing his arm. They started running again, hearts pounding as the night swallowed them whole. But one thing grew clearer with each step: what lay in the shadows was not just about survival, it was about uncovering a legacy that could change everything. As panic surged through him, William couldn't shake the sinking feeling that they had become part of something much larger, something forged long before they were even born. But one question loomed larger than all others: what kind of monsters had his mother been protecting them from? The thrill of adventure mixed with dread as they bolted into the darkness, unaware of how close they were to discovering the ultimate truth or the terror that awaited them there. Clara dragged William down a narrow alley, her grip on his arm unwavering, fueled by desperation. The night pressed in around them, the darkness thick with tension. Footsteps echoed behind them, shouting, barking orders, and the unmistakable sound of pursuit. Their breath came in gasps, bodies tense from the adrenaline coursing through their veins. "Where are we going?" William panted, glancing over his shoulder. The shadows seemed to pulse with life, a heartbeat that matched his racing heart. "Anywhere but here." Clara shot back, her voice sharp yet laced with fear. She stumbled, barely catching herself on a wrought iron fence, momentarily struggling to regain her footing. "We need a plan. What do we even know?" He could feel the envelope pressing painfully against his side, a constant reminder of the secrets it held. "What if we're running headfirst into a trap?" "No. We can't think like that. We need to focus," Clara insisted, determination flashing across her features. "We can figure it out, together." They reached a street corner illuminated by the flickering light of a lone street lamp, and Clara halted. "There's a diner just up ahead. We can hide and think." William hesitated, apprehension clawing at him. "A diner? It's not exactly the safest place. Better than running in circles. At least there are people there." She was right, or at least it seemed like it. The night felt too empty, too dark without a safety net. With a reluctant nod, William led the way, cautious but resolute. They slipped into the diner, the door chiming softly as they entered. Inside, the warm glow of neon lights and the scent of greasy fries were almost comforting. It felt normal, unlike the chaos that chased them. Clara's shoulders began to relax as they settled into a booth at the back. "We'll just watch the door," she whispered, her eyes scanning the room anxiously. William slid the envelope out onto the table, its edges rumpled and worn from his tight grip. "What are we supposed to do now? This thing could ruin us." She leaned closer, her breath hitching with a mix of curiosity and fear. "We need to open it. We need to know what it holds." As he fumbled with the flap, the sharp sound of laughter drifted from the counter, a couple of late-night diners oblivious to the storm brewing around him. The normalcy was surreal, but it provided a brief moment of illusion. "What if it's dangerous?" he murmured, fingers trembling. "Everything is dangerous right now," Clara replied, her voice steadier than her heartbeat. "But we can't run forever." He took a deep breath, forcing himself to tear open the envelope. As he pulled out the contents, a sheet of paper fluttered down to the table, time-stamped photos, meticulously documented notes. William's heart raced again, but this time it wasn't from fear. It was a wild mix of anticipation and dread. Images flooded his vision, his mother, a younger version, standing beside a group of shadowy figures. Each face seemed as unfamiliar as the last, but one was unmistakable: the man they had just left behind. He felt sick to his stomach. "Will?" Clara leaned in closer, her eyes darting from the papers to his face. "What is it?" "It's them," he whispered, a tremor in his voice. "These are the people from Project Locus." Just then, the door swung wide, and the muted chatter fell silent as a hulking silhouette filled the frame. A tall man scanned the room with predatory eyes, locking onto the couple in the back booth. Somewhere deep in his gut, William sensed they'd just unwittingly stepped onto a chessboard, one where the pieces were closing in. Clara's breath hitched beside him, panic rippling through the air between them. What do we do? He couldn't afford to turn away, not now. We have to get out of here. Yet as they both rose to flee, the haunting thought lingered like a shadow at the edge of his mind. What if uncovering the truth meant more than just surviving? What if it meant confronting a darkness that was ready to consume them whole? Their final move could tip the balance. But could they survive the truth? They barely made it out of the booth when the heavy footsteps echoed louder behind them. Clara's eyes were wide with panic. "This way," she hissed, darting towards the kitchen entrance. William hesitated, torn between instinct and desperation. He knew every second counted, yet his body screamed for a different kind of fight, one to stand his ground, to face the looming threat. As they slipped through the door into the back area, the kitchen's chaos engulfed them. Cooks shouted orders, the sizzling of food hitting hot oil filled the air, and hushed conversations buzzed in frantic undertones. Clara seized his arm, guiding him past the stacks of dishes and oblivious staff. "Keep moving," she urged, urgency threading her voice as the shadows of the diner darkened even more. But their momentary escape was cut short when Clara stumbled into a steel utility cart, sending it crashing to the ground. The cacophony turned heads. William's heart raced as he glanced back at the diner entrance just in time to see the tall man step into the kitchen. His eyes blazed with an intensity that sent a jolt of terror through William. "Run," he shouted, pulling Clara further into the clamor, knowing they needed to blend in, but the instinct to stand and fight gnawed at him. They ducked behind a counter as the man advanced, his movements predatory, like a wolf in search of prey. William could feel the hairs on his arms stand up as the man scanned past them, his gaze piercing through the steam and bustle. William's breath felt shallow, every pulse of his heart thundering in his ears. Clara leaned close, her lips barely moving as she whispered, "We need a distraction." Before he could respond, a loud crash echoed from outside, and the back door burst open, sending a gust of cold air through the kitchen. A figure stumbled inside, a young waitress, her face pale, eyes wide with panic. "They're looking for someone," she cried, quickly pushing her dark hair off her face. "Gather everyone in the front. Now." The kitchen erupted into frantic motion, and the tall man turned to follow the chaos, leaving the air thick with relief as they watched him go. "Now. We have to get out," William whispered, pulling Clara along as the cooks and staff began to flood the main area. They darted past the bewildered waitress, who had no idea what was unfolding just minutes before, but as the chaos swallowed the space, they stepped back into the diner, their bodies tense like a coiled spring. Booths were filled with customers glancing over their shoulders, a feeling of unease swirling in the air. They couldn't stay here and certainly couldn't confront the chaos outside. "Look!" Clara shouted, pointing as she spotted a door labeled "Employee Only." William nodded, heart pounding in his chest. He pushed it open, grateful for the gray hallway that stretched ahead. Just ahead, a faint light glowed beneath another door, and they rushed toward it. "Do you think we can make it?" Clara asked, her voice shaking. "Only one way to find out," he replied. As if to punctuate his words, the distant sound of shouting echoed through the hallway, sending fresh trepidation spiraling through him. They reached the door, and William hesitated, his hand hovering over the knob. What lay beyond could be a final escape or their doom. Clara's tense hand rested on his shoulder, and he could feel the weight of a million unspoken concerns pressing down on them both. "On the count of 3, he said, his breath hitching. 1, 2. The shouting grew closer, spreading ice through his veins. 3. William flung the door open, stepping into blinding light, brighter than anything they had known. The sudden change left them disoriented, their senses overwhelmed. But there was no turning back now. As they crossed the threshold, the reality of the world outside slammed against them like a tidal wave, crashing hard and unyielding. They stumbled onto an empty street, the city at their backs, but in the distance, shadows moved, silhouettes watching, waiting. Each breath was a reminder that they had left the sanctuary of uncertainty for the bleak promise of truth. "Will," Clara said softly, her voice barely breaking through the din of his thoughts. "We can't run anymore. We need to face this." As he turned to say something, his eyes locked onto a figure standing just beyond the light, a familiar face looming in the darkness with an expression that sent chills down his spine. It was the man from the photos. "Time to finish what you started," he called softly, a predatory smile twisting his lips, erasing every ounce of hope in that pulsing moment. They had crossed into a den of shadows, and now the real game began. What had they awakened? The figure stepped forward, the shadows clinging to his form like a second skin. William's heart hammered wildly in his chest, drowning out every other sound. The smile on the man's face was calculated, chilling, as if he savored their fear. "Who are you?" Clara's voice trembled, fear curling its fingers tightly around her throat. William felt the spike of her anxiety, and it only intensified his own. "Someone who has been waiting for this moment," the man replied, his tone disturbingly calm. "You thought you could just walk away?" William clenched his fists. The question burned, poking at his determination to push back. He didn't know how this man was connected to the chaos that had just unfolded, but he could feel the weight of something darker lurking behind him. "Whatever you think you want, it's not happening," William said, making a move to protect Clara. The man chuckled, deep and low, as if they were mere pawns in a game he had long mastered. "Oh, but it already has. You don't even know what you've stumbled into." Just then, a series of loud sirens echoed in the distance, their urgent blare pushing against the thick, stagnant air that wrapped around them like a suffocating blanket. The man's smile faltered. The sirens were not supposed to be part of his plan. William seized the moment. "Run!" he shouted to Clara, as he sidestepped toward the street. They bolted down the pavement, breaths coming hard as they turned sharply onto a side street, the sharp smell of exhaust mixing with the cold night air. Adrenaline buzzed through William, his body in full survival mode. He felt Clara hot on his heels, every step lifting their spirits with the thundering echo of their hearts. Glancing back, he saw the figure emerging from the light, fury replacing the calm facade. The tall man was already pursuing them, never breaking a sweat, closing in with an intense focus that sent chills skittering through William's spine. "Faster!" Clara urged, her voice strained. They sprinted through the maze of back alleys, heavy with shadows, and he could hear the clatter of cans and debris under their frantic feet. This wasn't just a game anymore. It felt like life or death. With each corner they turned. As they rounded a building, they skidded to a halt. Ahead lay a locked fence, the metal grating glinting ominously in the flickering light. Panic coursed through William. "We have to climb it," he said, glancing around desperately for another way out. Clara nodded, her hands trembling as they both scrambled to scale the fence. Just as William made it over, he reached down to pull Clara up, but she faltered with a cry. "I can't," she gasped, her eyes wide and frantic. The sound of the man's footsteps drew closer, relentless and predatory. Time slowed, every heartbeat echoed in William's ears. Without thinking, he wrapped his arms around her waist, hoisting her over the top with the last ounce of his strength. Just as the corner of his eyes caught a shadow lunging towards them, with a final push, they both tumbled over the top, crashing down into the cold alley on the other side. Clara gasped, pulling herself into an upright position as William took a moment to regain his breath. "Did we lose him?" she whispered, staring back at the fence. "I don't know," he said, eyes fixed on the dim light filtering through the alley, scanning for an escape route. But dread churned in his gut. He needed to get them somewhere safe, somewhere away from this nightmare. Suddenly, a low voice broke through the stillness behind them, oozing with menace. "Nowhere to run." William's heart sank as he turned slowly, the lingering hope extinguished. The man stood just feet away from them, a dark silhouette against the two overlapping shadows stretching before him. "You don't know what you've awakened, but I'll ensure you learn." As the words tumbled from the man's lips, William's eyes darted around, searching for any sign of salvation. But the darker truth loomed like thunderheads, brewing a storm of insight he couldn't yet comprehend. Will Clara's hand clutched his arm, terror flaring anew in her eyes. What is it? But the words faded on the edge of revelation, leaving behind a chill more biting than the night. There, glimmering in the distance, was an ominous glow, the unmistakable flash of police lights, closing in fast. And then it hit him, the punch of dread tightening his chest. Clara's next words could unearth secrets buried deep. What if we are the ones they're looking for? As the shadows deepened, twisting around them like a cage, William realized the true nightmare had only begun. What more had they awakened? Clara, we need to move. William urged, the urgency in his voice cutting through the tension. They couldn't linger, that voice behind them oozed danger. But Will, we're now. His heart pounded as the police lights flickered closer, casting eerie shadows in every direction. He tugged her forward, adrenaline overriding fear. Together, they dove further into the alley, putting space between them and the man's chilling presence. Footsteps echoed behind them, but fear of the approaching police drove them onward. They ducked into a narrow gap between two buildings, the damp smell of garbage mixing with the cold night air. Will, Clara whispered, her voice cracking as they pressed their backs against the cold brick wall. What do we do? What if they really are looking for us? William closed his eyes, trying to think fast. We can't let them see us together, that might raise more questions. Why would they be after us? Clara's breath was shaky, her panic palpable. With a deep breath, he turned to her, his mind racing. The man back there, he knows something. He's playing a game and we're caught in the middle of it. He looked like he didn't just want to scare us. Clara's voice trembled. He wanted something. I could feel it. Blood rushed in William's ears as he thought of the chaos that had spun out of control mere hours before. We need to figure out what his connection is to whatever all this is. Suddenly, the police sirens grew sharper, their lights piercing the darkness. Reflexively, William tucked Clara closer to him, shielding her. They stopped breathing as a squad car swept past, bringing a momentary flash of light. Once the car turned the corner, William grabbed Clara's hand. We can't stay here. We need to find a way out. If they think we're suspects. His voice trailed off, the implication hanging like the heavy mist cloaking the alley. Will. Look. Clara pointed ahead, her wide eyes locked onto something in the near distance, a flickering sign that read "Open Late." Neon lights buzzed, casting a warm glow against the otherwise cold scene around them. That cafe. It could be a safe place to hide. No, Clara. It'll be full of people, they'll see us, he replied, but something in her expression ignited an ember of hope. What if we take a back entrance? No one goes in the alley, right? She insisted, urgency igniting her tone. All right, he relented, fighting the unease crawling beneath his skin. They slipped into the shadows, navigating around trash cans as they neared the rear of the cafe, but questions lingered in the dark, more than just the immediate threat. Did the police believe them innocent or guilty? Why had this man chased them? Did their fates tie together in ways he still couldn't understand? As they reached the door, heavy with uncertainty, William noticed Clara press her body against him, trembling as if she could absorb strength from him. But as he turned the handle, his gut turned with dread. Just as they stepped inside, the cafe's door creaked, and a familiar voice echoed through the dimly lit space. Thought you could hide? William froze. The man had followed them. You can run, but you can't escape the truth. Clara gasped, stepping back into the hallway, fear gripping her throat again. William's chest tightened. Here inside this sanctuary, shadows danced, but one shadow loomed larger than the rest. Who are you? He demanded, jaw clenched, panic rooting into rage. But the man simply smiled, an ominous grin that held all the answers but wouldn't reveal a single one. Then came an unsettling realization: what if they weren't the only ones running? What if the man was a shield instead of a threat? Your past is coming for you, he whispered, a cruel glimmer in his eyes. And it won't stop until it gets what it wants. In that moment, William felt a flicker of dread like icy fingers crawling down his spine. Just how complicated was their reality? As the shadows churned around them, one thought pulsed through his mind: who would turn out to be the real enemy? And then the cafe's front window shattered, exploding inward, chaos erupting. Like a storm from the outside. Will! Clara cried as he instinctively pulled her down. A haunting question loomed above them, heavy in the air: would they survive to uncover the truth, or would this be their last stand against a past that had clawed its way into the present? The blinding brightness of shattered glass mixed with the echo of panicked screams. William's heart raced. He pulled Clara low, sheltering her against the cold tile floor as chaos erupted around them. Shards glinted like deadly stars, but the reality was more menacing. They were caught in the crosshairs of something far greater than the imagination could fathom. Get down! A voice roared from outside, harsh and commanding. The cafe's patrons scrambled for the corners, seeking refuge from whatever storm had broken loose. William's mind swirled. He needed to protect Clara not just from the immediate danger, but from the darkness that seemed to claw at the fringes of their world. Stay close, he urged, pulling Clara up. Together they edged toward the back exit, but the figure from before stood in their path, a dark silhouette against the chaos. He blocked their escape, a predator poised to strike. William's fingers tightened around the envelope in his pocket, the one tied to the secrets of his mother's past, the very reason for this unraveling nightmare. You can't run from this, the man taunted, his demeanor a chilling combination of confidence and malice. Everything you touch turns to chaos, doesn't it? William. Clara's fear was palpable, raw, and it sliced through the turmoil in the air. She pulled him closer, her trembling body a reminder of the stakes their lives. What do we do? Whatever happens, we face it together, he said, steeling himself for the confrontation. Amounts of fear threatened to drown him, but woven tightly within that fear was the firm determination to protect her. Then, using his instincts, he did what feels instinctual: he pushed through the throngs of terrified people, his heart pounding with the urgency of survival. Clara followed, clinging to him as they navigated the chaos, but the man's voice came again, cruel and biting, echoing through the air. You'll regret this. Your mother's legacy isn't one to escape easily. The bitterness of the man's words fused with the air, igniting a surge of adrenaline through William. This was bigger than fear or past mistakes. It was a reckoning, rippling across their reality, unpredictable but urgent. He paused briefly to steal a glance back, catching the cold glint in the stranger's eyes, the come-hither look of danger. Will, please. Clara's voice punctured his resolve. There was no time for second-guessing. They could either run into the unknown or stay and face whatever fate had drawn. Now, he urged, pulling her towards the cafe's back door just as another explosion rang, sending a shockwave through the very foundation of their decision. They stumbled through the door, bursting into the alley, the night air hitting them like a frigid wave. Where do we go? Clara pleaded, breathing heavily, wide eyes scanning the reality around them, a labyrinth of darkness and uncertainty. In here. He pointed at a nearby storefront, the sign barely visible under the shadows. It was a clothing store, obscured behind racks filled with garments. They slipped inside, hearts racing, lungs gasping. The smell of cotton and wool wrapped around them, muffling the sounds outside, but they were not out of danger yet. William pressed himself against the wall, glancing at Clara's worried face, determination etched into her features. They could hide, but it wouldn't be long until the storm they set in motion found them again. Will, I don't think we can hide forever, Clara whispered, barely above a murmur. What if he finds us in here? Then we will fight. The words came out firm, yet panic fluttered in his chest. He wanted to comfort her, but deep down, he also felt the weight of this fight on his shoulders. With clenched fists, he faced what they had yet to confront. Why us? Clara's voice cracked slightly, and for a fleeting moment, the wall between them crumbled, revealing the raw emotion they both felt. Grief. Fear. Hope. "Why are we? Because we're here to uncover the truth," he said, stubbornly swallowing the lump rising in his throat. "We're tied to this legacy." A soft creak from the front of the store cut through their conversation, an unwelcome reminder of the impending danger. Maybe the cafe was a trap, William thought bitterly, heart racing again as the faint sound of footsteps drew closer. But he silenced her with a finger to his lips. Just then, the store door swung open. Shadows fell across the room as a figure entered, silhouetted against the faint light flaring outside. A soft smile emerged. "Are you really trying to hide?" William froze as he recognized the voice. A different man, someone who carried his mother's blood with him, a brother in a sense, though they looked nothing alike. "Mark." At that moment, the world shifted. "You have no idea how deep this goes, do you?" Mark's voice sounded eerily calm amidst the storm. "What do you mean?" William demanded, feeling torn between frustration and relief. "Everything is converging. The truth is riddled with secrets, and only those who dare dig deeper will survive. You're tread-worn already." Feeling disoriented, William couldn't fully absorb the meaning, but it was clear they were entwined in something vast, a ripple effect of a legacy that wasn't done with them yet. Another rattle at the front sent the fear bubbling back up. "We don't have time. They'll come for us," Clara urged. "Together, then." Mark's eyes gleamed with resolution. "We need to divulge what's in that envelope." "What?" William shot back, a surge of panic flooding him, but he understood now if they were to face whatever threats emerged, clarity had to reign over screams of uncertainty. "Trust me, William. The truth could be our only weapon," Mark replied, his voice almost soothing in urgency. The moment shifted as the tension crackled in the air, a shared understanding blossomed between them. Deep down, he knew it was time to lay bare the contents of the envelope, a key that might unlock layers of deception, but as Clara pressed closer, peering nervously over his shoulder, William let out a shaky breath. What if what lay within shattered more than just their current predicament? Could they emerge from this darkness unscathed? "All right," he resolved, gripping the envelope with determination. "Let us find out what we're really up against." With each breath, as shadows pressed in from every angle, William felt that weight converge, brave hearts entwined in a quest for truth, a familial bond reborn in chaos. This time, they would face head-on what awaited. No longer just seeking theories or whispers of the past, but laying their lives bare to the legacies that shadowed them. As they gathered their courage, a new fight ignited deep within, the fight for their lives, for each other, for the truth that had been buried alive for far too long. The weight of futures yet unwritten pressed into the envelope in his hand, the pulse of their collective destiny beating stronger than fear. Time was running out. They were running out of time. And the darkness was about to get illuminated. But first, they had one last obstacle to clear, an enemy who wasn't willing to let them go without claiming their souls. "Get ready," he whispered to Clara and Mark. "This is about to get ugly." And with their hearts racing, heads held high, they prepared to plunge into the abyss of truth together. You need to subscribe now and be part of our wild adventures. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm, flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending, let us hear what you think, don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support means everything. Let's make this community stronger.